Hi, this is Bob Papa, voice of the New York Football Giants, and this is the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast.
Welcome back, Giants fans, to the latest edition of the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast. As always, proudly in association with Andy's Man Club. Lads, remember, it's okay to talk. We're all now, as well, proud to be part of the Sports Social Podcast Network. Get in. That's cool. Tonight, we are 100% British, as you can see, but we are still absolutely 100% Giants. It's week 2, and we're back to look ahead to our first road game of the season as Big Blue travel to Maryland, because it's not really Washington, is it, to take on our rivals, division rivals, the Washington Commanders, in what is already, this early in the season, a must-win game. And now that the dust has settled on week 1, it's fully in the rear-view mirror. We need to bounce back with a win against a team who we've been fairly successful recently against. So it's definitely a must-win, and it could, if it goes wrong, be Daniel Jones's last chance. Lots to cover this evening, lads. How are we doing?
Yeah, not bad, Ty. Obviously, last weekend's in the rearview mirror now. Looking forward to the weekend coming up. Well, I say I'm looking forward to it in the sense it's in the future. I don't know if I'm looking forward to it though. But we're going to get into it, and obviously I couldn't be on the other night, but you guys did a fantastic job. Certainly helped with a little bit of therapy with myself, listening to the episode with you, and thanks to everyone that was so active from the comments that you guys were reading out, and that was a fantastic episode on Monday night off the back of such a disappointing opening week.
Yeah, we kind of covered that towards the end, about sticking with us, and we know that it sucks, but it is just week 1. There is still plenty of football to be played. Whether that's a good or a bad thing is something to really find out, I guess, in the next few weeks. So the next few weeks are going to be crucial. And you're right, Dan, it really is almost like a must-win game week 2, which is depressing in the ultimate sense. But
Yep.
Hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's a massive game for us at the weekend. No, Peter, no. Get out. Not happening. Never.
It was funny on Sunday when I was sat next to Craig, and I turned to Craig and I was like, your kind of like doomsday scenario might come true. And he's like, what do you mean? And I was just like, Billy B. He just put hands over his face.
For those that are listening, there's just been a comment on screen from Peter Joyce saying Belichick, all spelled out in letters. It's not happening. Not happening. Evening, Kev. Evening, Darren. Thanks for tuning in. It's a huge game for us at the weekend. I think week 2. Like I said, it's a must-win game already. So, we seem to have Washington's number recently in recent history. So let's hope that run continues. As I said a couple of minutes ago, we are now proudly members of the Sports Social Podcast Network. Producer Craig, tell us a bit more about the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Yeah, so the Sports Social Podcast Network are a group of Europe's biggest podcast distributors. And as you can see on screen, if you're watching, that there is a selection of personally curated podcasts that I thought were interesting. And at the bottom, there is a link to our page on the Sports Social page. Now, what this means, not a lot really. Everything still gets delivered in the same way. We'll still be on Spotify, we'll still be on Apple, we'll still be all over the place. However, the audio versions of the podcasts will now have ad breaks every 20 minutes with a few advertisements. And it's just a way really to help us take the next step. We're absolutely honoured to be part of Sports Social and be part of their podcast network. So we're over the moon with that. So yeah, that's basically what it is. Shane, just your thoughts on the curation there.
Yeah, I have had no input whatsoever or comment in regards to this. I've been blindsided, a bit like Craig got blindsided last week with the college update that we kind of did. I've been blitzed inside the first 30 seconds. Steve, I completely agree. They showed me before we went on there, and my words literally was, "What is that?" I knew nothing about this. I don't condone it. I don't authorise it. I don't support it. I support the social thingy-majigger. I just don't support that. I'm not even saying it, but that logo that's the second one here, nothing to do with me whatsoever. I'm absolutely disgusted, and I might be getting lawyers involved in legal representation, so I just ain't happy.
There we go. Craig Frigden blitz 0 for Shane. Just paying back.
I'm dying right.
So
I'm dying as well.
So for those who are listening, the graphic had the Wolves podcast as the second one in, which obviously as an Albion fan, Shane is delighted over.
Not very happy about.
And for listeners, that W word will not be mentioned here on out again on this podcast or future episodes.
What, win?
Oh, that one as well.
You like that one, yeah. But no, yeah, massively really, really happy to be part of the network. Really proud, really privileged, and I think it's going to be really good. And yeah, adverts. Who loves adverts? Huh? That'd be fun. But no, I think it'll be a really great partnership. Obviously, we're still affiliated with the full 10 yards guys as well. They've been real big supporters of ours over the last couple of years, and obviously we thank them for their help and their support. So we are still sort of affiliated with them. But yeah, Sports Social Podcast Network is now who we are part of, I suppose. Anyway. So yeah, there you go. That's a positive change for the season, for this season anyway. So let's hope there's more positivity coming this weekend. We'll be shortly joined by Aled, a member of the Welsh Commanders fan group, to give us an insight into what we can expect to see from Washington this week and this season. He'll be on in about 20 minutes' time. As revealed on Tuesday night, alongside the New York Giants fans UK, we'll be hosting our second watch party of the year when we take on Washington in the reverse game at MetLife Stadium in week 9. Obviously, we won't be at MetLife Stadium. We'll be in London at the Sports Bar and Grill at Marylebone Station. That is the location to be at. Sunday, the 3rd of November. To confirm your attendance, check out our posts on both X and in the New York Giants Fans UK Facebook group, and follow the link to a Google form where you can fill out all the details there and let us know if you are attending. It would be great to have as many people there as possible. And I think we've already got around 20-ish confirmed. I think something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, so we had about 22, 23 last season, and I'd love to absolutely smash that this year. And if anything is to go by from the initial sort of wave of people who have responded on the form, then that's fantastic. Obviously, anyone who's listening back to this or doing this on replay, you don't have to sign up using the form. You can just turn up on the night if you'd rather do it that way. That's absolutely fine.
Yes, you can.
It just gives us an idea of how many people are coming, and it obviously gives us a way of capturing some information to get hold of people just in case anything changes. But there will be a prize on the night as well. So,
ooh, prize! Get in. See, Shane's been stitched up. He has, Kev. He has. That was not my doing. Just saying.
You're all into that, and Kev. All of you into it. You shafted me.
No. Don't blame me.
You laughing?
I was.
You was.
I was pissing myself. Yeah, because it was hilarious. But I mean, it wasn't my doing. Just saying. But I think it's payback. I think we're even now. Even field. Let's keep it that way. Yeah, obviously we're talking obviously about the New York Giants fans group on Facebook. Obviously, we do have a page on Facebook. We do most of our we put most of our posts into the Giants UK group. But we also now streaming live on Facebook as well. So welcome to those that are watching. If there's anyone watching on there, if you do want to watch on Facebook, you can watch us along live on Facebook as well, alongside YouTube, X, and Twitch as well. And do you want to explain a little bit why we sort of went and came back, Craig? I think you know more about it already.
Mr. Zuckerberg decided that he didn't want every single page streaming to Facebook, so you had to have a minimum amount of followers. We obviously don't push the followers for Facebook because, as Dan said, we're part of the group and we like posting in the group more than that. However, we have just gone past the threshold again on Facebook, so it allows us to be able to stream there again. No idea why they did it. Makes no sense.
Who knows? But yeah, we reached the magic number of 100, I think it is, isn't it, on Facebook? So we can now stream live on there as well. So on all 4 platforms, happy days. Chris asked, I take it as Shane is a West Brom fan. That would be correct. Yeah, hence his hatred for Wolves. Bill, evening, Bill. Nice. There were 50 plus at the local SoCal Giants hangout watching the debacle on Sunday. Most stay to the end. Hope you have a good turnout. Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. Hopefully, yeah. I mean, we'd love to have 50 people there. That'd be blind at night. I don't know if the place we're going to be able to take 50 people in that little space. We have to spill into the main bar. But that, yeah, as many as we can get along. It'd be great to have a drink and have some food and watch some football with as many of you as possible. And for those that are watching live, get involved in the comments as usual. I know we obviously have plenty already so far. But if you're watching and you've not got involved before, get involved. Send some comments in, send some questions in. And obviously, if we get time to answer the questions, we will do. And we try to put as many comments up on screen as we can as well. Kicking off tonight, we've got the latest Giant news, as usual. It kind of seems to be a running trend. The Giants have made multiple roster moves in what seems to be the never-ending manipulation of this roster. Firstly, on Monday night, or Monday, whenever on Monday, we signed wide receiver and return specialist, apologies if I ruined the name, Emir Smith-Marset. Sounds about right. 25 originally is a Newark native. He's from Newark, New Jersey, so just down the road, and played college football in Iowa. He was drafted in the 5th round of the 2021 draft by the Vikings and spent time with Bears, the Chiefs, and the Carolina Panthers last year. While with the Panthers last year, he returned a punt 79 yards for a touchdown. Good job, just like Gunner did. In 33 games, he's caught 14 passes for 182 yards and 2 touchdowns, returned 37 punts for 322 yards and a touchdown, and returned 5 kickoffs for 100 yards. So pretty good so far. Also, in what seems to be a constant just yo-yo, up, down, up, down, up, down, Jakob Johnson has made his 7th transaction of the season by being signed to the main roster again. Just keep the fullback on the roster. Come on. But it remains to be seen if he stays there. Carter Coughlin was waived / injured due to the is it a torn pec he's got? Oh, nasty. Torn pec injury that he suffered on Sunday. And once he clears waivers, he will go on to injured reserve. Then yesterday, the Giants signed offensive lineman Cade Mays to the practice squad. He was a 6th rounder to Carolina in 2022 and has appeared in 27 games with 5 starts, all at guard. In last year, he appeared in 10 games, allowing 21 pressures, 3 of them sacks, and finished with a 71.2 run blocking grade and a 43.0 pass blocking grade. So better in the run game. We need some help up front in the run game, so maybe it's a good little move there. And then lastly, plenty of roster moves, told you. The Giants also re-signed Curtis Bolton to the practice squad. So to clear space, they released offensive lineman Marcellus Johnson. And breathe. So the gunner, obviously, with Gunnar Olszewski being ruled out for a considerable amount of time, obviously the signing of Smith-Marset is obviously quite reactionary to him, that injury. But what are we doing with Jakob Johnson? He's been moved 7 times this season already. Can we not make up our mind, Shane?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel sorry for him in a way. 7 transactions, and we've literally just had week 1. We're just going into week 2. It's like what are you doing? I mean, I've been working late all this week, so I've not really kind of been kept up to date on a lot of things. I mean, I don't know if Dave's has been asked the question, because I'd be asking the question if I was one of the beat writers that gets to speak to Dave before or after practice. I'll be like, is there any rationale behind moving Jakob this many times, and how many more times is he going to be moved? I mean, surely there's got to be a limit on it or something. I don't know. It just seems a little bit unfair for the player, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't really know what happens when when he's waived and then back to the practice. Like, what happens with his contract? Is he just constantly signing? Are we going to wear his hand out before he actually
How
gets a
much money
chance
does he get?
Well,
Does he
yeah,
get a signing
exactly.
bonus every time?
Yeah. Yeah. Jamie said Jota's like my bank statement in and out. I mean, it's
Yeah.
pretty spot on. I do feel sorry for him. I do wonder if that's a reactionary move as well, with how easy it looked for him to get involved in the running game in preseason and help open up running lanes where, Sunday just gone, we really struggled to open up anything really in the running game. So maybe they realised that trying to save a few pennies here and there by not having vets on your roster and kind of, moving them around constantly actually doesn't help your team in the long run, because as we already said, we were short-handed at the weekend as it was because we couldn't be bothered to pay 1.1, 1.2 million vet minimums for the entire season. So it does something's not right there. It's annoying me, but I don't know the ins and outs and why it would be that is it essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes obviously I said on Tuesday, there's lots of things that just seem very messy to me, and this is another one of them. It just seems quite messy, like up, down, up, down, up, down. Like, if you want him on the roster, keep him on the roster. Like, if you don't want him, then just leave him on the practice squad. Stop elevating him and dropping him back, elevating and dropping him back. I mean, if we could probably bloody use a fullback right now to try and get this run game going as well. I know, obviously, again, we're only 1 week in, but it could probably be utilised to actually get the run game going and get the back some yards. So yeah, I feel for him, but at the same time, whether he's practice squad or on the main roster, he's still getting paid. So that's the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
Craig, latest injury reports going into the weekend.
So the injury report has literally just come out. So looking at people who didn't participate in practice today, Nick McLeod has a potential knee injury. Darius Musow, knee injury. Gunnar Olszewski, groin injury. We know about those. Pat Leonard turned around and said that Malik Neighbours was not acting like himself in the locker room today, and some players were asking how he was, and now we know why he's on that injury report. He's got a potential knee injury. He was limited today. Darius Slayton is still in the concussion protocol, but I do believe that he was in the non-contact jersey today. But obviously, that's the next step up from doing walkthroughs to actually being able to participate in practice. And then one good thing, Michael McFadden seems to have recovered from his groin injury and is practicing and moving well. Dabes did touch, not Dabes, Bowen did touch on McFadden today, saying that they didn't want to rush him back last week, which is why he suited up but didn't play. And he would have been used as an emergency if necessary, but obviously we didn't have to go there with that move, which has given McFadden an extra week. And let's be honest, Musa didn't play badly. He wasn't one of the issues on Sunday in the defense. If we look at the Commander's injury report, this one's from yesterday. I haven't seen one from today. Obviously, I'm not an ex now, so there might be another one out. But tight end Zach Ertz was given a rest day, so he didn't practice. Jazan Newton has a foot injury, but he was also rested yesterday. Tyler Owens, safety, was limited with an ankle injury. Brandon Coleman, tackle, was a full participant, as was Brian Robinson Jr., their running back, and another tackle in Trent Scott, who are both dealing with knee issues. Now, one person who was on the injury report yesterday was Emmanuel Forbes Jr. With a thumb injury, but he was a full participant. He's now been ruled out for Saturday. He's going to go and have surgery on that thumb injury. So that means, we won't be seeing him, which is a bit of a shame, I guess, from a Giants perspective, because he hasn't been very good. And it'd be interesting to kind of speak to Alid shortly and see what his thoughts are on that. But yeah, that's what we have so far.
We can't ever have nice things, can we?
Hmm.
Malik Neighbours limited in practice. I mean, hopefully it's nothing serious and it's just precautionary, but really, like, come on.
Can we just have more though? Like Malik Neighbours' knee. What's wrong with his knee? That doesn't give me anything. Is it a little bit of growing pains? Is it just a little bit creaky? I'm not being funny, and I'm not jinxing it, touch wood, but an ACL is technically knee as well. Look, can we just have a little bit more information than knee?
Yeah, it would be nice to know more, but you know what
Just
they're
so we
like.
sleep a little bit better.
Yeah.
Or do we just go, you know what, season's fox, turn it all up?
Yeah. I mean, it would be nice to have more, but at the same time, I think I said, you know what they're like. They don't tend to reveal any sort of
Anything.
any details at all, do they?
Mm-hmm. And just for everyone who's obviously panicking over this news that's come out today, etc., etc., bear in mind we are still on Thursday. There's plenty of time between now and then. A lot of these things can be precautionary. Yes, Pat's saying that Neighbours wasn't quite himself, but that's what can happen. And also, we talk about injury bugs and everything. Just take 5 seconds to go and have a look at some of the other injury reports around the league, and you'll realise that actually our injury report is quite small versus a lot of
Quite
other
small.
teams.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't get too bogged down in that yet. I'll be more worried about getting players performing than worrying about who's potentially limited at the moment, because we need to kick up the arse there.
Yeah, I think Michael McFadden being full practice is a good sign as well. Obviously, with Darius Musa on the injury report, so it's a kind of a little bit of a switcheroo, and having McFadden back in there, obviously him having more experience, I think it could potentially be a good sign. Don't get me wrong, Musa played relatively well, I thought, against Minnesota last week. But I think having McFadden back and fully fit would definitely benefit that defense for sure. All right. Before Alad joins us, we are, for those that listen on audio, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back with you soon. And welcome back to the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast. We are just waiting for Alad to come in and join us. But before we do, obviously, he's going to be in a few minutes. I think, obviously, with Washington coming up this weekend, I said before, we kind of seem to have the blueprint to beat them this weekend. But, looking at last week, obviously, against Tampa Bay, I think they performed okay. So, this week coming up is a massive game for us, but it's also a big game for them. Let's not forget. It's it's almost a case of not necessarily a must-win for them, obviously, because they've got a rookie quarterback. But nobody wants to start the season 0-2. So do you think it's a bigger game for us, or do you think it's a bigger game for them, or it's kind of even? What do you reckon, Shane?
I mean, I think obviously there's Giants bias, so obviously you're naturally going to say it's a bigger game for us. But I think from a neutral perspective, I would turn around and say it's a bigger game for the Giants than it is for Washington. Washington can have a poor game and lose, but it'll be like, oh yeah, they've got a rookie quarterback in, and it's a new regime, their new head coach. I think it's a new head coach anyway, I want to say. Whereas like with the Giants, it's a case of, well, this is your quarterback that you paid again. This is your third year head coach. It's your third year GM. It's your third year pass rusher in Thibodeau. So there's more concern. So I definitely think it's a bigger game for us than it is for Washington.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. If you look at our roster from top to bottom, it should be in a much better place than there should be. As Shane's just covered, they do have a new head coach. They also have a new offensive coordinator. They have a new defensive coordinator. So they're pretty much in that spot where we were 3 years ago. So no matter really what happens this year, most of those are going to get a second opportunity next year. Now, depending on what happens with us this year, we could be going from, Dable going at the end of the season to both Dable and Shane going at the end of the season to anything really. I mean, it just depends on what John Mara really thinks by the end, and how well it's gone. And I think if we were to go 0-2, that pretty much kind of puts the nail in the coffin with a lot of things. So it's going to be a tough few days, I think, in the lead up to it. And just bear in mind that after this game, it could be more incendiary than it was after Sundays, depending on what happens.
Yeah, and talking on Sunday, Shane, obviously you weren't on Tuesday, but give us your 2 pence worth. How do you feel about Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, you guys, you two, Kevin, and even the listeners as well that's commenting, you all pretty much covered it kind of. I know we spoke Sunday night and in our group chat on Monday and Tuesday daytime, but you kind of covered everything that I kind of felt and thought. You all made valid points and concerns, and we're going to see if we can get some of those concerns. I'm not saying erase this week, but at least get some questions to answers that we had. The main thing is it's done now. It's gone. It's Sunday. It's in the past. We can't do anything to bury it. It is what it is. We're 0-1, and then we just need to look towards this week and a divisional game against Washington.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all over Sunday now, almost. But I think, it's like I said at the top. It's in the rearview mirror. It's done. It's in the past, and we look forward into week 2. And talking of week 2, we are going to move on and start looking ahead to this weekend's game. And in our new preview section, we're going to have hopefully have a guest in each week. And joining us this evening is a man called Aled from the WalesCommanders fan club. Aled, thanks for joining us this evening, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, mate. Anytime. It's good to have you on. It'd be good to hear your thoughts about your team and in the lead up to this weekend.
Of course.
So we're in a similar boat after week 1, with both teams being 0-1 following heavy defeats. But the one big difference about our 2 teams, I suppose, at the moment is our quarterback situation. Obviously, we've got a year 6 quarterback, you've got a rookie quarterback, so you're not kind of in the same boat as we are necessarily. But a 2-part question for you to start off with. How excited are you to have Jayden Daniels as your potential future franchise quarterback? And is he Robert Griffin III 2.0?
Yeah, well, when he came off second overall on the board, it was, I was happy, because obviously you had a couple of quarterbacks on the board, but I was happy that they did pick Jayden Daniels. I think he's got the it factor. He's got the X factor. He's got just a little something about him that's really exciting to watch. And like you said, the similarities, are there with him and RG3. Obviously, probably about 12 years ago now, obviously RG3 was drafted. Another Heisman Trophy winner. Obviously, a very similar frame. A running quarterback. So, like you say, he could be the second coming, but you'd want him to go another step further and be there for the long term and not just one season. So hopefully we've patched up the field in the stadium so he doesn't get any injuries. So touch wood for Sunday. But he is a very similar quarterback. But I'm like a lot of the Commander fans, we're just ecstatic to have someone now who looks like they've got something about them to take us forward.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like he's quite an exciting young talent, and God knows we could do with having that under centre for the Giants at the moment. So there is a little bit of jealousy, but the similarities between him and RG3 are definitely there for sure. I absolutely agree with that, and I think he could be an astounding talent in this league. It's just a shame he's a divisional rival now.
Yeah.
But Shane, you got a question?
Yeah, thanks for coming on, mate. So the question I've got is kind of in regards to like how you played last Sunday now against the Bucks. Obviously, I know that I looked at the stat sheet because I didn't watch your game, and I know that Daniels had a lot of rushing yards. Now that if that was scrambling or designed run plays, but the kind of one thing that stood out to me was that Scary Terry only had 2 receptions on only 4 targets for 17 yards. Now he's a player I massively rate. Terry McLaurin, I think he's absolutely fantastic player. And I thought with having a rookie quarterback, he'd be targeting early and quite frequently, trying to build that relationship. So was this just a case of the Bucs were nullifying his impact, McLaurin's impact, or was it a case of him and Daniels maybe not being on the same page so early on in his NFL career?
No, you hit the nail on the head there. They were definitely nullifying McLaurin's play, and I think the Bucs sort of targeted that. You know, they saw Jane Daniels as a rookie and thought, right, if we nullify McLaurin, you've got to use your legs to beat us, you know. And then that pushed on to your next point. He had 17 runs, and a lot of them weren't design runs, like you said again. Very good sheet you were reading anyway, because you didn't even need to see the game. You said it all, exactly what I'm saying now, you know. He ran for 17 times, and I looked at a stat recently, and going back to RG3 again, and his sort of game high was 13 runs. So, you know, it was a couple more. But, the Bucs had their game plan, and they wanted to get Jaden Daniels to beat them with his legs. Our O-line isn't very good. We've got a lot of holes. So I think, obviously, he was pushed into those sort of scrambling runs because of the lack of protection at O-line.
So if we look at today's injury report, we've seen, or not injury report, but injury news, I guess, from your side. Emmanuel Forbes is now out for a few weeks, which has kind of scuppered my question for you, which was going to be around the fact that he's struggled since he's come into the league, and you know he was benched early last season, and I was going to ask you about what you see the future for Forbes, and I guess you can still answer that if you want, but I guess if we pivot this, who's the replacement for Forbes, and are you confident that they can at least give you better?
Yeah, obviously, like you said, I've just seen the news now that he's going to have an operation on it. And that's quite telling, because you can imagine, you know, in any sport, you've got a player, you've got the coaches, and 9 times out of 10, they'd be like, oh, just put a sprint on it, you know, patch him up, let's just get him on the field. But it's very telling that they've all gone, yeah, let's put him down for an operation, you know, and I think that's a part of it, is protecting him, because obviously he didn't have a very good rookie season with the previous regime. This new regime has come in, and they've gone, look, let's strip it all bare and let's try and build him up, because that's all you can do, you know, in this league. You know, you can't just pull the checkbook out. It's not like our football where you can just, like, you know, that's what I love about the NFL. You've got to work with what you've got, and him being 16 off the board, 17, you know, first round, you think they're all going to be Hall of Famers, don't you? You assume like they're going to be great, and unfortunately it hasn't worked out for him. You know, in college, you know, he had a decent time. I think he's got the record of the most interceptions in college that were returned for a touchdown. He holds our record, you know, so, you know, he had the potential, obviously a slight frame, but you think he had speed, and, you know, you can't buy speed, and you think that would have pushed him through. For whatever reason, it hasn't worked out. I think now where we're at, I think it's a mental aspect, and that's obviously so hard to get past. So I wonder how he is going to come back from that. Who have we got to come in? I'm not 100% sure. You know, with the corners going back, you know, Forbes, he was benched in the second quarter of the Bucs game, and obviously the reason they were kind of saying was because of his fingers, but I think it was because, you know, he just got cooked with the 1-2 tandem of Goodwin and Mike Evans. You know, it's such a hard position, you know, looking at a corner. Who'd want to be a corner? It's like in our football, you say, who'd want to be a goalkeeper? What a position, you know, to just mirror, to be a shadow, to watch the player. You don't know, obviously, where they're going to go, which way they're going to go. Obviously, the ball is such a difficult position. But then, you know, to going back to Sunday with the Bucs, Mike Evans, 6'5", 10-year vet, you know, a decent throw from Baker Mayfield, and you know, 9 times out of 10 you're going to win it. So it is hard. for Forbes. I do feel for him, because I'm a positive person. I hate like being down on players. I want to try and see the good in them, but I'm not sure. We've got obviously Benjamin St. Just. He's another corner as well. He's having a terrible time, and I think apart from kicker, I don't know if you've seen our struggles with kicker, and the kicker is, in my eyes, a very important position. A lot of people don't see kickers as that important, but just getting the points ticking on the board, and if you're not kicking those easy field goals, then we're not a side who are going to outscore the opposition with touchdowns. But no, I'm not sure about who we'd have to come in now to help out. It's a worry, and I think that's something that maybe the Giants could target on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of preaching to the choir about kickers here. After Gano went down last season, we went through about 4 of them for the rest of the season. So, yeah, that was painful at the best of times.
I think it was
we even
two in one day at one point, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we had Jamie Gillan come in and kick a field goal in one game. So that just shows you what happened there when your punter's having to line up. So let's switch from players then, and let's talk about coaches. Brand new head coach in Dan Quinn. He's come from the Cowboys. So is your DC, Joe Witt, and then ex-Cardinals head coach Cliff Kingsbury's now in at OC. How's that looked in the preseason, and how did that kind of come across in week one? Because obviously it's still early, and there's going to be a lot of scheme changes as this goes on.
Yeah, like you said, it is very early days. Obviously, I was quite impressed with the coaches that came in. I was happy with them all. We start off with Dan Quinn. He did okay at the Falcons. He got them to a Super Bowl. Obviously, he's got the record of the comeback that he doesn't want against the Patriots. But I think out of 4 or 5 seasons, he had 2 winning seasons. But I think when you look at what's come before him with Ron Rivera, I think it's an upgrade. So I'm happy in that aspect. And like you said, he went back to the Cowboys to get Joe Witt Jr. And obviously he's had, a first sort of promotion, as it were. And I just think, with Joe Witt Jr., he wants his defense to play nasty. He wants, not worry about a 3-4 or a 4-3. He wants aggression. We haven't seen it yet. And then let's go to Cliff Kingsbury. When you look at him from his college days, you can, look at it and call it like an air raid offense, maybe a bit gimmicky. And he kind of alluded to that on Sunday, where one play Daniels threw to McCaffrey. And McCaffrey, I don't know if it was designed. I don't know if it was a fake throw and a run, or he was probably looking to throw, I think maybe back to Daniels, but obviously Daniels was covered. And then he ran. So we hadn't seen that in Washington, sort of the trick plays. And I love the trick plays, I'm a sucker for those, sort of trick plays. But so with those 3, I think they're definitely an upgrade on what we've had last season. And like you said, it is early days, so we'll have to see how it progresses. Previous regimes, we've given 5 full years. And as you can imagine, boys, I don't know if you watch our football, but our football, a couple of games and the manager's out. So it's much different in the NFL, isn't it? To see someone last 5 years. So we've got to give it time. So I'm happy to give it time, and we'll see what comes of it. But I think it was a positive first game in respect of they were trying to implement their style. Probably wasn't working. Maybe the reason is because the Bucs are, a well-oiled, well-drilled team who won the Super Bowl 4 years ago, haven't lost many players. And I think it was probably a step too far. I was really looking forward to the game, and I went out to Tampa to watch it. I think because it was such, everyone was on a high with obviously the new quarterback, the new coaches. I think everyone thought, let's see how we'll do. And I treated it like a yardstick to see how far we've come and how far we need to go. And there is a long way to go with the team.
Over to you.
Yeah. So obviously, as we mentioned already, you got that rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Outside of that, looking ahead of the season for yourself, what's the general expectation in terms of a record this season? Like, do you have a number of wins that you'd like to see in mind, or are you more concerned and prioritising potentially the progression and the development of Jaden Daniels as being sufficient enough?
I think the 2 points you've made there will go in tandem. I think for him to have a progression, he's got to have a certain number of wins. Obviously, we had 4 wins last year, which was unusual for us. Baseline is about 6 or 7. So you'd say with sort of an upgrade with the coaching, upgrade in the quarterback, I'd find it hard to think that we won't get more. We will, we definitely will get more than 4. Baseline is like 6 or 7. So, my head would say 6 or 7. My heart would say 8, which is obviously just below 500. So I think, for me, I know it's a results game. You want progression. You want to take it easy, but you want to see some sort of action. You want to see it moving forward quite quickly in another respect as well. So I think for me, as a supporter, I'd like to see 8 and 9.
Yeah, I think that'd definitely be a successful season in terms
Yeah.
of progression and moving on from last year. I think we spoke about records a couple of weeks ago and made our predictions, and I think I'd bite your hand off now an 8-9 record after week 1. So it's I think it's depends what side of the fence you're on at the moment. Last question for you then. Look into the future of the franchise. Dan Snyder and his regime is a distant memory. What does the future of the Washington Commanders look like to you?
Well, it's amazing because, it looked like at one point he'd never go, and you could tell that he didn't really want to be there. He was just like a spoiled child who didn't want to let go of the toy, and I'm so glad that he's gone. And the current group now, they see, it's nice to have a few sort of owners within the group that grew up watching as we were the Redskins, and that's exciting. But more than anything, they want the fan experience to be better. We've obviously got a crumbling stadium. They want to get us out into a new stadium, but even so, they've spent millions now and obviously for this weekend, I've got a lot of the British Commander fans gone out and they'll see it firsthand. They want the fan experience to be the next level, and they've probably spent a lot of money to make that happen. So that's a really good sign. They're not a group who've just come in and gone, let's tighten the purse strings. We want to make all the money. They're happy to sort of like spend their wealth to create sort of a franchise that the DC area will be proud of. Josh Harris, obviously, he's New Jersey Devils, obviously Crystal Palace in the UK, amongst others. He's got a lot of fingers in different pies, but I think that they're in good hands, much better hands. I don't think it was hard to be in better hands than Snyder anyway. So I'm excited for the future, and I just hope that. And with Snyder, previous years, he's been in the war room on the draft night, and he told them to pick Haskins, the quarterback we had a couple of years ago. That's who he wanted, But Josh Harris, he was in the war room this year, and people were like, oh, is it another Snyder? But, he just spent billions on the team. He just wanted to sit there. Hey, I would do too, I just sit back and, have a drink.
It's his money they're spending.
Exactly. But, so he's not a meddler like Snyder. So I think the future is bright. And, we do owe you a win, boys, because obviously Daniel's record against us is 5-1-1. So I want to see 5-2-1 Sunday evening. But, that's the beauty of the NFL. Like last year, I went to MetLife Stadium. I went to see the game. And I think we went in as slight favourites, 3 points or something. I thought, two poor teams. And, that was like end of October, and we were, both struggling then. And I thought, and as when you obviously go and see a game, you feel like, you feel positive and you want to nick it. And obviously we lost 14-7 But and it's like that old adage where they say any given Sunday. We've struggled in games, and then we've gone away to the Steelers, the unbeaten Steelers one year, and beaten them. And that's going back to, I know I hark on, I'm a bit of a romantic. Any given Sunday. That's what I love about this game.
I think that's one of the things that we all love about this game, is that anything can happen on any Sunday. You can write the form book as much as you want, but more often than not, it gets thrown out every weekend. So I think that's one of the best things about football, is it is so unpredictable, unless you're the Kansas City Chiefs. One last question for you then before you go.
Of course.
Why did you choose the Washington Commanders, or the Redskins, or the football team as they were, whenever they were?
Yeah. So,
and what do you prefer, Redskins football team or Commanders?
Or what do I prefer?
Yeah.
Well, it'll always be the Redskins for me. But you know what? I don't mind the Commanders. I know a lot of people hate it, and obviously, I'm not I'm not from the DC area. Obviously, I'm originally from Swansea. I suppose Swansea City. I guess if someone changed our name, I'd feel a bit more aggrieved than how I feel here. I don't mind the Commanders. I guess it had to change. But to go back to how I became a fan, it was 1992. Bit of a random story, really. You saw, you're growing up. I was, I think, 10 or 11 at the time, and you see, obviously, on the TV, on the films, these American football players, the big pads, the helmets. You're like, whoa, what is this? And you look into it, and I remember you could collect the little helmets, like with the chewing gums, like back in the day, little things like that, and it's not like today where, it's on tap NFL. It was quite sort of like a mystical thing. But I remember we were going on a holiday, and we were going to a shop to get some holiday t-shirts, and they had Flintstones NFL crossover t-shirts. And they had three in there. They had Raiders, Redskins, and Dolphins. And I picked the Redskins because I liked the logo. That was probably the main thing. But the burgundy and gold colours was my school colours. So it was my school uniform. Okay. So that was basically it, really. I didn't realise, obviously, we didn't have the internet. I didn't know they just won 3 Super Bowls, within the last decade. I just liked the look of it. And then moving forward, then you were just checking teletext. I don't know if you boys are old enough to remember teletext, CFAX on a Sunday to know the score. And then there was one game a year on Sky, that the Redskins were playing, and you'd play Madden to keep up with the rosters. And then it was only, and it was like that for years then. And only 2012, I thought, I wonder if you can watch every game now. You must be with the internet. And obviously I looked into a Game Pass. And since 2012, which was the RG3 season, it was the year that I started watching every game and investing in it more.
Yeah. No, I mean that is quite a cool story, that it sort of took you back to your time in your school uniform, just the colours of the t-shirt. So that's I rate that story. That's up there for sure. I think that's a good one. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about the Commander's name. I do prefer the Redskins.
I think when they were deciding, the Red Wolves was bandied around, and I guess why I liked it is because it kept the red part, and the wolf. They said that, like, when a Native American dies, they come back as a wolf. So I just like that connotation of, like, it's kind of sort of like linking it, I'm not sure. I'd rather just a winning side. If someone said, "Oh, do you want the Redskins name back and losing every year, or Commanders and winning a couple of Super Bowls?" Then I'm going to take winning. But
you're going to take winning every day, aren't you? Let's face it. Let's face it. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us this evening, mate. It's been a pleasure. It's been good to have you on. It's been a good chat and find out a bit more about your team. And let's hope Sunday, at least, is an entertaining game for all of us.
Yeah, enjoy the game. Just want to shout out to all the British Commander fans. They've flown out today, so hope they all have a good time. And yeah, guys, enjoy the game on Sunday, and may the best team win.
Absolutely, mate. Good to chat to you, buddy, and we'll catch up soon.
Thanks all.
Cheers, man.
Cheers, mate. See ya.
All right, for audio listeners, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back soon, so stay with us. Welcome back to the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast. All right, then, it's time to look at what the Giants need to do to win this game. It's our keys to victory. The Giants lead the head-to-head series 107-70 to 5. So it's been 5 ties in history. There was one quite recently, I think 2022, if I remember right. Yeah.
2020 was the score, by the way, not 2020 as in
Yeah. So a comfortable lead for Big Blue there. The Giants are 50, 40, and 2 on the road in Washington. So again, a fairly comfortable lead there. It's going to take years for Washington to catch up with us in terms of head-to-heads. The Giants haven't lost to Washington since week 18 of 2021, with a clean sweep coming last year as we won obviously 14-7 and also 31-19 as well. And neither game, Daniel Jones was under centre. There we go. As Kev isn't here tonight, Craig's taking the offense on solo. So over to you, mate, for the keys to win on offense.
Yeah, so if we go through Kev's notes that he sent through to me first, they're more focused on the Commanders' defense and how they are, and then I'll go through sort of my little spiel on Daniel Jones. So last week, Baker Mayfield went 24 of 30 for 289 yards and 4 touchdowns with 0 turnovers. So he absolutely torched them. I think he had a perfect passer rating across the game, so not great. No real pressure from their edge rushers or defensive front, considering they've got their 2 interior defensive linemen are probably among some of the best ones in the league. So no, they had 1 sack, and I think that was it. There was pretty much nothing else. Third down conversion, they allowed 9 of 13, which is 69% conversion rate, which is awful. What Kev's saying is attack the commies secondary, especially Forbes. Now, obviously, Forbes we now know isn't going to be playing, but Kev did say he didn't look like he belonged in the NFL. Gave up a bad face mask penalty on a critical third down, and the following play, the Commanders scored. But obviously, we're not going to be able to go there. Rookie Saintrill had a 40.7 grade. He struggled, looked like he could be a player, but attack him while he's finding his feet. The rest of the secondary just looked disjointed. Free safety Martin and cornerback St. Just both had under 65 ratings. Linebacker Bobby Wagner, future Hall of Famer. Let's be honest, future Hall of Famer Bobby Wagner there had a 56.3 despite leading the team with 10 tackles. He looks like he potentially might have lost a step, so we could take advantage there. Jamin Davis, he flashed a bit of speed and athleticism, but limited snaps and not a high quality starter. So, you're always going to get a higher grade with less snaps because you've got less tape really to look good on. That interior defensive line that I was talking about in Payne and Allen both played okay, but Allen was slightly poorer. And both of them really looked below average as they were getting up to speed. And there was literally nothing to mention about the edge guys because they really did not offer anything. So thanks to Kev for that. Right. Daniel Jones is the key here. There's no way to sugarcoat it or tiptoe around it.
Really?
He is the key here.
Right.
Based on previous meetings against the Commanders, it would be okay maybe to have a sliver of positivity for this matchup. Jones has faced the Commanders 7 times. He's lost once. He has 11 total touchdowns, 10 passing, 1 rushing. He's given up 3 interceptions and has a quarterback rating across those games of 98. So not bad. But let's be honest. Jones last faced them in December 2022 as DeVito and Tyrod were the quarterbacks for the 2 games last season. Looking at those 2 games in 2022, despite the fact that the Giants went to the playoffs, Jones gave average performances in both of the games. Total of 360 yards across both of them, 1 touchdown, which was to Isaiah Hodgins, 0 interceptions, which is good, but 1 lost fumble. We can't say that he torched them. He just looked good enough. But Jones at good enough is what we need this weekend to beat them at the end of the day. Across the rest of the team, Malik Neighbours obviously was able to get separation at a very high level against I've wiped the team from my head. Vikings against the Vikings. So if he can do that again, He hopefully will get the ball more often this time, especially as we've said against a secondary that, though we were talking about how bad the Rams secondary was, we're probably going to go up against a worse one here in Washington. And on the offensive line, we just need the inside to improve in pass protection. Despite the fact that both Allen and Payne had down games last week, they're both very good defenders, and our interior pass rush wasn't great. Van Roten probably gave up the most pressures out of all of our interior defensive line. However, if we can just have Illuminor and Thomas play exactly like they did, I think we'll be perfectly fine there.
Agreed.
Just looking at some of the comments, because there's quite a few comments about this one. Daniel Jones' job is on the line. If we lose to the Commies, he'll be benched. Book it. Kay Adams had Carl Rudolph on today, and he said that Daniel Jones' confidence is shot and he fears for his life. And then Kev getting involved, saying, what can DJ get you to do to get you believing again? Sorry. Chris said, make plays, don't make check down obvious, get at least 3 touchdowns. Shane, what does Daniel Jones need to do to get you believing again?
Nothing. That simple as that. He does what he does at the end of the day. Daniel Jones is not going to be on this team in a year's time. You guys very rightly alluded to that on Monday night, and it's kind of irrespective. I'm kind of at the point where I'm just like, I don't care what he does now, to be honest with you. Like, I'd rather see someone like Tommy DeVito in, because at least I can get behind Tommy. Daniel's had his chance. He's had his chance. He's had his money. He's had another chance. He's had his old line. He's had excuse after excuse given for him. I'm just not doing it anymore. So as far as I'm concerned, do I want Giants to win? Absolutely. And if they win because of Daniel Jones, fantastic. It's not going to make me believe, though. At the end of the day, I'm still checked out on it now. It's just, for me, it's just a case of, once this year's done, thanks for the 6 years, Daniel. See you later.
Dan? You're obviously more of a long-term believer than Shane was anyway, so this would be interesting because you've probably got something in mind that you would say is acceptable for this week.
Yeah, he needs to not be so scared, not be so. He just needs to play better. I'm not expecting fireworks. I'm not expecting 400 yards, 3-4 touchdowns, no interceptions, perfect passer rating. I just want to see him actually be a quarterback in this league. I want to see him make an audible at the line of scrimmage, because looking back to the Vikings game, when did he make one? It looked like literally ball was snapped, first read, boom. Ball was snapped, first read, boom. There was no change in the play. I just want to see a more confident Daniel, but at the same time, asking him to be more confident, a week after that absolute pasting that the Vikings put on us is very, very difficult. His confidence is through the floor, and it's going to take a hell of a lot to bring that back. I honestly don't think we'll ever get that back. I think that 2022 Daniel Jones was peak Daniel Jones, and that's the best we'll ever see of him. I think for the rest of the season, it's going to be okay if he stays as the starter. I think if at halftime, I think if we're losing this game, and if he plays anything like he played last week, I honestly think Drew Lock starts the second half, and I think that could be potentially the end of the road for him. Halftime in week 2.
I'm not saying it's the reason, but someone like I've thought, he's like, how much do you reckon Daniel Jones is potentially affected by what happened in this off-season?
I think he's got to be. He's got to be.
In terms of the team quite clearly wanted to move up, irrespective of what Joel Shane's come out and said. Joel Shane's come out and said what you would expect him to turn around and say. Now, he says he said one thing to Daniel Jones. Well, number one, what's he actually said to Daniel Jones? Because what he's told Daniel Jones and maybe what he's willing to tell the media are 2 completely different things for obvious reasons. But number 2, let's say he told Daniel what he told him. Yeah, we believe in you, blah, blah, blah. Daniel's secretly going to be thinking, the bollocks. If you believed in me, you wouldn't have been looking to trade up and telling me that we're going to be bringing a quarterback in and doing all this work on quarterbacks. And he's probably got his mates and his agents, his family talking to him, etc. So it does make me wonder. I'm not saying it's the 4 reasons to why he had such a poor game on Sunday, which we're not going to go over again. But I do just kind of wonder how much is what happened in the off season with him potentially being replaced, maybe somewhere in his mind. And then when he has a couple of bad plays, pressures, throws the ball away, does that self-doubt then starts creeping potentially? I don't know. I'm not a psychologist at the end of the day, just a thought that I've had.
And also, his injuries have to play a part as well, because he can't. He's got to be scared to be getting injured again, especially with the neck injury he had. Obviously, that was nasty, and then doing his ACL as well. He's going to be playing scared too.
Just one last thing before I pass over for the defense. Shane, does Daniel get a seat on the tank train?
I can confirm Daniel's driving the fucking train.
I love that. But and I obviously I hope that we see a better version of Daniel Jones. But I'm very, very skeptical, and I fully expect this. Like I said on Tuesday, this is going to be his last hurrah this season. Whether it lasts 2 games, 3 games, 4 games, or all 17 games, this is going to be his last hurrah. We will have a new starting quarterback in 2025. A little stat for you though: it's been 361 days since Daniel Jones last threw a touchdown in the NFL. That came in week 2 last year against the Arizona Cardinals. Can either of you remember who he threw that touchdown to?
I mean, first of all, it's a bit of a shit stat, isn't it? Because he missed 90% of the games anyway. It's one of those ones where it's like, so and so hasn't done X since X, but he's been dead since. So it's one of those really hard ones. But it's the Cardinals. I mean, it was a pick six.
It tied the game in the 4th quarter with 4.5 minutes to go. I'll give you a clue. He's no longer on our roster. Not Darren Waller.
2-6.
Not Saquon. Isaiah Hodgins.
Who?
Isaiah Hodgins.
Oh, I mean, he technically is still on the roster. He's just on the practice squad.
To be honest with you, I've tried to wash last season out my memory.
he's not on the active roster. There we go. Yeah, almost a calendar year since he threw a touchdown pass. I mean, yeah, granted, he was injured for 9 months of it, but yeah, just a little tidbit for you there. Just a little tidbit for you. All right, then it's time for defense. Let's go, Shane. There's our defense was obviously not the worst problem of the first game of the season. There were bigger problems than that, but we did have some issues on defense. The main one being, obviously, we spoke about at length on Tuesday. Pass rush. We need to see something from this pass rush, period. If we're to have any chance of winning this game against Washington, the pass rushers up front need to do something. The Washington offensive line held up pretty well last week, gave up 0 sacks, no quarterback hits, only had 7 quarterback hurries and 7 pressures allowed, which for a mere offensive line is pretty damn good, and a rookie quarterback as well. And with a rookie quarterback, we need to pressure, and more pressure. Get that pressure on him and force him into throws and throwaways as well. We do have a formidable defensive line and pass rush, the more formidable defensive line and pass rush than the Bucs do. And after last week's lack of rush, they really got to sort of step it up, especially, the pressure and the fire is burning under Kayvon Thibodeau with his media issues that you had earlier in the week as well. It didn't look great for him, so he needs to come back and have a bit of a statement game, I think, this week. Shane, what we got next?
Yeah, so the next one, it kind of feels like it's something that's been spoken about in the off season for the last however many years, and it's always a focus, and it never actually turns out to be anything, and that's stopping the run. Now, we've seen the Giants struggle to stop the run numerous times. I mean, I don't know what his stats was yard per carry, but I thought Aaron Jones ran very, very well on Sunday against us. Considering that, I remember, I think I want to say one of Dable's comments in regards to Shane Bowen was how well that stopped how well he stopped the run when he was in Tennessee. But I thought Aaron Jones was getting like 8 to 12 yards more times than I'd like to see. And we've seen the kind of damage that a mobile quarterback like Jalen Hurts can do. Now, like we mentioned when we had Washington, was it Aled?
Yeah, Aled.
When we had Aled on just about Jaden Daniels' legs that he was using, and he rushed 15 times for 88 yards last week for 5.9 yards per attempt, and he ran in for 2 touchdowns as well. Now, Aled said that a lot of it was not designed run; it was more him scrambling. But I don't know whether you put Bobby O on a spy, maybe Museo can go on to a spy, but you need to limit what he can do with his legs, because like Dan said, if you can pressure the quarterback, that's one thing. But if you then pressure the quarterback and he's got the kind of legs that Daniels has got, where he can run and get 13 yards, it doesn't really matter. So you need to be able to pressure him in regards to him not having time to pass. But you also need to make sure someone's sitting there on a spy or a contain to prevent him gaining that first down with his legs as well. So that's going to be a key one for me, is limiting Jaden Daniels' mobility.
Yeah, big time. Jamie says a massive worry for me, a mobile quarterback with the ability to go deep. Yep, because we'll come on to the secondary shortly, but that's also another concern on this defense. And I mean, we kind of all had that thinking when going into the season that we'd have issues in the defensive backfield. There is one man who's key to stopping the run, though. Of course, big man Dexter Lawrence in the middle. Yeah, and the highest PFF grade for defensive tackles in the league last week. He did 92.6, I believe it was. And you mentioned about Aaron Jones, that he ran really well last week on us. When Dex wasn't on the field, he averaged almost 1.5 yards more per attempt than when Dex was on the field. So that the Aaron Jones averaged 3.6 yards per attempt when he was on the field, versus a 5 yard per attempt when Dex was on the sideline. So just having Dex on that line alone makes a difference in the terms of the yardage gained in the run game. And they've got Jaden Daniels, who is a mobile quarterback, and he scrambles for his life. Was scrambling for his life at points last week. They've also got Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, who, from being a couple of years ago one of the best running backs in the league for the Los Angeles Chargers, now obviously finding himself a second string behind Brian Daniels. He's still got something to give and something to offer. So those two guys can run, and we really need to tighten up on our tackling and finish those tackles. Last week we had too many missed tackles, and again we spoke about it last season at length. Our tackling rate was really poor, and last week we missed quite a few as well. So we really need to tighten up and finish those tackles.
Yeah, the next one for me comes back to Jaden Daniels again. He averaged 7.7 yards per completed pass last week, with his longest pass being 32 yards to Brian Robinson. Like I mentioned earlier on, Terry McLaurin had 2 catches on 4 targets, 17 yards, and there were 7 different receivers that are holding catches from Daniels. The DB is going to have the work cut out with both Brian Robinson and Eckler catching multiple passes out of the backfield, and a familiar name, Zach Ertz, who we need no introduction to, pitching in with 3 catches also. So, the key there, it's not just going to come in from the DBs, but we need to see the linebackers. If you see a running back go out on a screen, one of the linebackers needs to pick that up now, whether that's one of the inside backers or whether you maybe get someone like Thibodeau drop into coverage. Now, Thibodeau, he did have 100% missed tackle rate on Sunday. So, he only needs to make 1 tackle, and he's improved that stat. But, we can't afford that. And like I say, even if it's a case of putting one of the linebackers on and then get the DBs coming down and kind of supporting them, but like I say, Dan says that the missed tackles, we can't afford it, and especially if you're going to be tackling Jaden Daniels, you need to make sure he comes down.
Big time. Just quickly for audio listeners, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back soon, so stick with us. Welcome back to the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast. We are talking defense, the keys to win for the Washington game this weekend. Moving on, winning the turnover battle as well is another key to getting a dub this weekend. Across 2 games last year, the Giants forced 7 turnovers to Washington's 2. They didn't turn the ball over last week against Tampa Bay, and they only gave up 2 sacks. It's one of those things, we got the turnover first series last week. It was all, we had, it was the sack and then the turnover in consecutive plays. And it was all looking sort of fairly good. And then all of a sudden, the defense decided to shut off, and Minnesota just ended up dominating the game. So we really need to sort of keep that pressure, keep just being disruptive up front, and trying to force those turnovers. Obviously, the Drew Phillips forced fumble was his first play in the league, his first professional play in the league, and he forces a fumble. Fantastic. So hopefully we get to see more of that in future. But no, I think it's winning that turnover battle is definitely one we need to be looking at. And Shane, the last one up for you.
Yeah, it's making sure we're on mute. Sorry. It's going to come down to Shane Bowen's solid red zone D being tested. Now the Vikings were 2 for 2 last week, and when the Commanders were in the red zone last week, they were 3 for 3. So that goal line D is going to need to tighten up. I think it might have been Craig last week mentioned the defense is going to be a case of bend but don't break. But we broke on Sunday. We completely snapped in half multiple times in several different pieces, and we can't afford to do that. At the end of the day, I mean, there was one for the Vikings on. I think it was the touchdown to Jefferson, and it was 4. I think it might be 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. And it's a case of, well, they may as well go for it on 4th here, because even if they don't get it, we're in crap field position. So we can't afford to kind of be letting the teams convert them 4th downs. And like I said, that red zone D looked okay in pre-season. Yes, admittedly it was pre-season, but we need to see that come across now and translate from pre-season into the regular season.
Big time. Yeah, I need to, Shane, but the big part of Shane Bowen's defense is good D in the red zone and on the goal line, and we didn't show that last week. And the Commanders converted all 3 of their occasions in the red zone last week, so we need to really tighten up on the goal line as well. And lastly, across both offense, defense, and I suppose special teams as well, it's Washington. We know how to beat Washington. We should beat Washington, but who knows? It's going to be an interesting game. Any defensive thoughts, Craig?
I don't think so. I just thought it just needs to be better than last week. It really does. We struggled against Sam Darnold, a guy who's seen ghosts at MetLife many a time. So it just needs to be better. I just worry about a mobile quarterback. As you said, Jalen Hurts is notorious for tearing us a new one. I just hope that him being a rookie means that it at least gives us maybe this season, maybe next, before he finds his feet properly, because I do think he's a talent, and I do think that he will do it at some point. We just need to take advantage and learn about him over the next few seasons, and then we potentially have a few tough battles. But it's the NFL, anything can happen.
Absolutely. All right then, it's prediction time. Here we go. Drum roll. All right, as usual, I'm up first. All I'm going to say is don't expect a shootout. I think over-under is around 43 at the moment, which I think is pretty generous. I'm going for a Brian Burns forced fumble return for a touchdown, and scores Big Blue's first touchdown of the year in a 13-10 win, a hard-fought 13-10 win. Kev's prediction is next, I believe.
Yeah, so I'll jump in. Obviously, if anybody has any predictions, get them in the comments. We'll bring them up at the end of this. So, however, Kev has also gone for a Giants win, 21-17 on there. Is Shane going to keep up the full house, or is he going to stay true to his comments last week where he said he would never go for the Giants again?
Shane, how much are Washington winning by?
Just looking at it now, so the over-under set at 43 at the minute with the spread 1.5 either way, with us being a plus 1.5 and Washington being a minus 1.5. I'm going to be honest, I don't know what I predicted. I think, was it 13-17? Was that the score I sent you? I can't remember. Yeah, it was. But it was for a Washington win. I'm a man of my word. You fuckers made me believe last week. Look at the positivity I had last week, and look what you did to me. You didn't just go, oh, let's just ruin that positivity. It was like, you know what? Let's this kid's just been brought an ice cream. Let's just drop it on the floor. Let's tell this kid that Santa don't exist. Like, you just corrupted my whole world. So I'm sticking to my word. I am not backing the Giants again for the rest of the season. I don't care what happens. We can win the next 10 games. I don't care. I'm still not backing it. Washington.
Apologies to any parents letting their kids watch this.
Oh yeah. What you doing letting your kid watch this? Are you trying to scar them for life?
Isn't it past their bedtime anyway?
Yeah, probably.
Craig, last up is you. I've got a sneaky feeling.
I'm just going to reveal it.
I knew you were going to do that.
He's sensible. He's smart. That way. Apart from what he did at the start of the show, he's a very smart.
Change your tune, eh?
20-24 Washington. They put up 20 against the Bucks, who arguably started better than we did. Whether that was because the Bucks were so far ahead is another question. As we already said, 3 for 3 in the red zone. Hate going against the Giants. I just feel like it's almost to prove it now. You're going to have to get me back on side. If one side of the ball played well last week, I think I would have been okay. But it was so poor across the board. I just unfortunately have to go for it.
No, that's fair enough.
Hold on.
You've all gone fairly. Go on.
We have a Washington fan in the comments.
Go on.
Why do you
Jordan, evening Jordan.
I'm intrigued. We have a horrible secondary. Shane?
I mean, firstly, I'm just going to say, I rate the thumbnail.
Yeah.
Huge respect for look, so this Washington fan, you've got a horrible secondary. We've got a horrible team. That's it. We've got a horrible quarterback. We've got an okay O-line. We've got Malik Neighbors, and that's it. We've got a non-existent pass rush. We've got players playing in positions they ain't played in all pre-season. We've just got a horrible team. At least you've got optimism. You've got your rookie quarterback, all this exciting new thing. We got Daniel fucking Jones.
It's a fair point. Kevin, the PRF, evening Kevin. I'm a Washington fan too. Yes, our secondary is horrible. So is the Giants. You're not wrong there, mate. You're not wrong. Thanks for tuning in. I'm kind of not surprised that you two have gone with Washington. Obviously, Shane's a man of his word. I expected that, and I'm not surprised you've gone with them either as well. I was torn, but I thought, you know what, I do have a slither of belief in this team still, and I thought a defensive touchdown would be the only score we get at the weekend, but. Yeah, any viewers or listeners predictions coming in, Craig?
Yep, so we've got a few. So my favourite guy, Mr. Mayo, 27-21 Giants. Holtzy's gone 24.
That's a high score, 27-21. Wow.
Holtzy's gone 24-3 to Washington, which
yeah.
Kieran's gone for a loss, going for a win, but too much positivity last week, 17-10. The Commanders fan says 17-10 Giants win.
Are you Giants in disguise?
The other Washington fan says 23-16 Washington. That's a heck of a score prediction right there.
I like that. Washington has sustained Jones's career. Only fair they end it. Drew Lock in by halftime.
Steve 17-7 Washington. Belief is shot. I think that's it. I think the only other one is Wandale to go 10 for 120 and a touchdown, which I'll take. Danny Jones will go 240, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. I mean, I would take that right now
I
as
don't
well.
believe it.
I really would.
I don't believe that for a second. He's not thrown a touchdown pass for a year. Ain't gonna happen.
There we go. And Allen just at the end there, due to last week, 17 to 10 Commanders.
Yeah, I mean, it's fully expected, to be fair. I'm surprised there have been, 1, 2 people that picked the Giants to win in the comments. Maybe 3 if I can remember rightly. So I am surprised. Kevin, pressure leads turnovers. It's the only way to the Giants win. Our attackers aren't good. Burns and Cleveland should take advantage. They absolutely should. And like I said, Brian Burns is going to force a fumble, pick the ball up, and run it into the end zone for 6 this weekend. Mark my words. Maybe. All right, predictions done. There we go. We're 2-2. 2 of us taking the Giants, 2 of us taking Washington. Let's see what happens on Sunday. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for this evening. We will be back on Tuesday next week to review the game from Sunday. 8:30 normal time, normal place, YouTube, X, Twitch, and also now Facebook. And hopefully we will have something to talk about, and hopefully we prove both Shane and Craig wrong. But I don't hold out too much hope. Anything else to add before we go, guys?
No, just good chatting. Like, says it was good listening to Monday's episode, and a huge thank you to everyone that came to Birmingham on Sunday. Like I said, I think I said it before we went on air, or maybe I said it on air, that watching the game on Sunday was made a lot more bearable watching it with you guys rather than sitting in the house on your own like I do, because like none of my mates follow the sport, and we chat on WhatsApp constantly when the games are on, etc. But it was just a lot easier and a lot better to kind of have that instant reaction and interaction with you guys and the other people that were there on Sunday. So huge thanks to everyone that turned up, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just really bad that we're kind of at can't lost territory already. Doing these podcasts are obviously therapeutic for ourselves and hopefully therapeutic for the fans, but we don't really want them to be that downhearted so quickly. I've gone against the Giants because I just think it was so bad last week, and I'd love to be proven wrong, and I'd love to come on the podcast on Tuesday and be really positive. But let's see, because my worry is that it could turn into a long, old, ugly season if we're talking on Tuesday about another loss.
It absolutely could be. I hope we just play better. If we lose the game by 3 points, I won't be too disappointed. But what I can't see and cannot put up with this weekend is another blowout loss, and we just look as horrible as we did last weekend. 0-1 obviously wasn't the best start to the season. 0-2, I think the season done in the books, and we might as well look forward to 2025, because only 11% of teams make the playoffs that start the season 0-2. Yes, the Giants have done it before, but it'd be very, very unlikely to do it again this season. Been a good episode this evening. Make sure you check out our socials for all the latest news. Follow the links in the description and give this episode a big thumbs up. Thanks to everyone watching and listening for your comments and getting involved this evening. We really appreciate the love and all your comments and everything coming in. Even those Washington fans that are watching as well. Thanks for tuning in, and let's hope Tuesday is a little bit more positive than our last episode was. My thanks as ever go to Shane and to Craig for joining me, and to those watching and listening. We are signing off. Until next time. Let's go Giants.